Hi, welcome to the April Notes channel. My name is April. In this video, I am going to be showing my first usage of the Tim Holtz Media Mat. I know I'm a little late to the game in purchasing it, but I finally did, and I'm really excited. So far, I'm loving it, and this is just me using it for the first time with some various different products and mediums to test it out and see how I can, work it into my my kind of routine for making cards. So this is the mat, and I do have a previous video showing my unboxing of it and some of the features. I'm grabbing my life-changing brushes by Picket Studios. There are 10 of these brushes, and I recently purchased these at a scrapbook expo in March, and you can see already they're well loved. So I'm taking those out. I actually changed my mind, and I didn't use them right away. But I'm just going to put those to the side because I am going to use them later. I just grabbed a piece of Neenah Solar White, a 110-pound cardstock that I had cut into 4s down to the A2 size. And then I'm grabbing my Distress Oxide inks by Ranger. So those are pretty much all the Distress Oxide inks that I own. I decided to grab just a few colors that I thought went together. So I grabbed Mowed Lawn, Cracked Pistachio, and Salty Ocean. I particularly love Cracked Pistachio. I just love teal and turquoise. So I decided to do some kind of direct ink onto the mat. And I wanted to see how the ink worked using the silicone mat to the right and how the ink worked using the glass surface. So I just put each of those colors down, just kind of smush them in, and then I'm spraying that with my, actually I think it's Tim Holtz Spritzer, the mini one. And I'm so sorry that the colors did not show up on the right there. I promise they're there. That is not still white. It's just my light was so bright. But I'm just dragging my paper through that, as you can see. It's pretty wet, pretty messy. I love having a kind of wet surface just immediately to the right of my main work surface. That already is like super convenient. So I'm just picking up the rest of that extra ink there. And now I'm doing the exact same thing, but on the glass surface. And you can even see just how wonderful it is to see the colors on this glass surface because the background is black. I'm spritzing it with water, and then I'm just going to kind of push my paper into it. I didn't really drag my paper. I don't know, I kind of was creating some abstract art here. I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest. But the colors went well. They felt a little dry, so I just put some more water on them. I'm just trying to pick up the rest of that ink there. And then I'm setting those aside to just kind of dry a little bit. And then you can see how easy it is just to clean that surface off. Literally, I just used my wipe, and then I kind of buffed it up, dried it with my microfiber cloth, which I kind of use for everything. Now I'm going to use the brushes. So I'm taking the exact same inks for comparison, and I'm grabbing, I think that's maybe the biggest life-changing brush. I think it might be the second biggest. And I'm just doing some ink blending on the glass surface of the mat. And I started with the Cracked Pistachio there. And then off to the right, I'm doing the exact same thing, but I wanted to see how the blending worked on the silicone mat. And I can already see that, you can see it's a little bit darker when I put the ink on, and I'm picking up just as much ink each time. But when on the left, when I use the glass surface, it's a little bit softer, and on the right, when I use the silicone mat, it's a little bit harsher lines. And I don't know if the glass is just a smoother surface for the ink. That's my guess. So when I use the brush, when I slide it on, it's just so smooth, it goes on super soft. I'm not really sure, but I do see a difference. Definitely, if you want something that looks more heavy-handed, use the mat to the right, I would recommend. And if you wanted something with a little softer look, like maybe some clouds, this would be great to use like with a pink color, just do a few clouds, or a light blue. Then the glass surface is pretty fabulous for that. And then again, just that same baby wipe, I'm saving it just to wipe off the surface. I love how easy it is to wipe off. It's just, not the other surfaces aren't, but I don't know, it's so nice and cool and that smooth glass feel. So you see these side by side. One on the right I did on the silicone mat, and the one on the left I did on the glass. And one on the left is a little bit softer, and not as many harsh edges on it. So now I grabbed 2 stamp sets that I plan to do watercoloring. They're both by Stamps of Life. And one is the Lighthouse 2 stamp, and one is the Shell 2 stamp. And I haven't actually used the Lighthouse one. I've used the Shell one a little bit. Shell one is really fun. It has those sentiments. It's your birthday. Let's celebrate. Life's a beach. And I did get the matching die set. It cuts out the shells, and then those inside dies, they actually cut the shells out with 3D dimension. And I'm actually hoping to show more of this set in another video because it's actually pretty awesome. But yeah, those are some there that I already just kind of have pre-stamped when I first got the set, colored, tried to see, you know, what it was all about. But I've yet to make an actual card with this stamp set, so that's definitely one of my future goals. Because it's super cute, and I love stamps that have large open spaces that you can color in. I just think that's fun. This other stamp set I recently got in the monthly kit that I signed up for the Stamps of Life, and it's called the Lighthouse 2 stamp, and it just has this beautiful lighthouse. It has a little tiny house. I don't know, kind of reminds me of like a dog house, but it must be the house where the people who work at the lighthouse live. I don't know. There's terms like you light up my life, you light up my day, shine bright, always look on the bright side, and then happy birthday. Oh, and there's birds and a few clouds. But this is also awesome. I love the open space on this lighthouse. So that's the one that I'm going to start with. So I've also been wanting to just try the mat out, this media mat, with just doing different things on top of it. I did cut some paper on it that off camera using my Tim Holtz guillotine cutter. And now I'm grabbing my Tim Holtz, I forget what he calls it. It was the stamp positioner. And this is the mini. I do have the larger one, but the mini was great just for my purpose on this mat. And I'm just doing a really small stamp, so I didn't need a large area. And then I grabbed my Picket Fence Black Hybrid ink pad because it is good for watercoloring. And what I love is it says that right on the front of the ink pad. Because I always forget which inks work well for what. But this one says it on the front. And so I grabbed that because I'm going to do some watercoloring. I just grabbed another piece of paper, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm just going to grab the lighthouse image and stamp that using that Picket Fence Black Hybrid ink. Excuse me if you hear just a little bit of sniffling. I seem to be having, I don't know if it's allergies or kind of a head cold, but it's just, I could just feel it. So I am so sorry if I sound stuffed up. So I realized I grabbed that Neenah cardstock and I was like, April, you're watercoloring. So I went back and grabbed my Strathmore watercolor paper at the last second before I inked that and had a hot mess on my hands trying to watercolor on the Neenah cardstock. And the paper, this is such a big pad. I usually can't cut it in my cutter, so I just decided to just cut some off and then I cut it down as needed. Yeah, and just there, I like to keep my extras of the watercolor paper that are smaller pieces just in a little clear sleeve with the watercolor paper. So when I go to reach for it, I don't accidentally cut extra if I already have some that's pre-cut. That way I really use up what I have. And I have a lot of what I have. So I'm just going to, again, take that lighthouse stamp. Put that down, just gonna center it, And that sheet is roughly about A2 size, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I wasn't sure at this point if I was going to stamp it and then want to cut it out later, so I wasn't really too worried about how the size of the paper looked. But yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and stamp that. I'm going to ink it up. I do like the Tim Holtz stamp positioner. I do like how solid the door is. Is one thing I do really like about it. I do find on the watercolor paper I have to stamp usually a few times to get a solid image because of the texture of the paper. And then, yeah, that is one feature I wanted to show that I love about that positioner is I can just pull the door right off. I clean it off. Yeah, it's awesome. So I stamped 2 of the lighthouse images, and I grabbed my Tim Holtz, sorry, I think they're Tim Holtz Distress markers. And these are pretty much all the ones I have. They're not super vibrant colors, but I found them on sale at Joann's, and I didn't have any. So I grabbed my dried Marigold. I grabbed Broken China. That's Spun Sugar. And this one's Walnut Stain. Spiced Marmalade. Fired Brick. Dusty Concord. Sorry, some of these are off camera. I am new to this. The Stormy Sky, upside down. Stormy Sky. This is Forest Moss. And lastly, we have Antique Linen. So I'm going to use some of these to color in my little lighthouse there. And so what I did on the right is I took off that silicone mat, stuck it in the middle of the glass surface, and these squares here, that whole area is glass, but it has squares that segment it, so you can kind of separate your colors or mix new colors, which I love. And I'm just, showing there is a brush side and a fine point side to these markers. I'm going to use the brush side for this purpose. And I'm just going to take colors that I want to use, and I'm just drawing them directly onto that glass surface. So I think I grabbed the dried Marigold, the Antique Linen, the Spiced Marmalade. I grabbed a green, that was the Forest Moss, and the Stormy Sky, and the Broken China, and the Fired Brick. So I'm now going to grab my water brush. If you haven't used one of these, they're pretty nice for watercoloring because you don't need a jar of water. The water is in the barrel of that brush right there, and you just kind of squeeze. And then just kind of squeezed it out a bit to get it started, and I just grabbed some of the Fired Brick, and away we go. And yeah, I'm not the best watercolor artist. I just love to kind of start at the bottom with it dark, and I love working my way up, and it gets lighter. So if you want to get that kind of gradation, then that's a great way to start. I also recommend using watercolor paper, such as I have here. I'm just using the Strathmore. Tim Holtz also makes a really, really great watercolor paper. I just ran out, and I loved that the Strathmore came in such big sheets, so I wouldn't run out as fast. But Tim Holtz is nice. I love the texture of his watercolor paper. Definitely would recommend that. But yeah, I'm just going to color that in, and I'm going to speed up the coloring here so that you don't have to watch through all of it. But so far I'm loving using the glass surface. The colors are staying within their own little wells, and I actually have a dedicated surface. Normally when I watercolor, I have like a Crayola watercolor kind of like little palette with 7 or 8 primary colors. And then if I were to use these inks, I had a little silicone mat I would roll out, I would ink it, but then the colors will always run into each other. And honestly, just having this grid on the right making sure each color kind of stays contained. It's awesome. Also, I noticed adding water to the colors on the glass, they don't run as much as they do in the silicone mat. Silicone mat, they would kind of bead up. But here on the glass, it just, I don't know, it's pretty awesome. So I lied. I guess I didn't speed this up, or I kind of sped it up, but not by very much. Oh, and I kind of ran out of the green there, so I grabbed some more. And there at the bottom with the lighthouse, honestly, I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be grass or rocks. I think they were supposed to be rocks, because if you think about lighthouses, they are usually by, right by the ocean. And I'm thinking there's rocks. I didn't know. I did actually go and Google what a lighthouse looks like. And I'm like, it's been a long time since I've seen an actual lighthouse. I think the last time I saw one was when I was at Pigeon Point in elementary school. So, it's been a while. But yeah, I saw some that were striped, but I didn't really know how to make that striped red and white. So I kind of just stuck with the red for this one. And I think it actually is turning out okay. Something else you could do too is grab like a glitter pen or a sparkle pen if you wanted something, and you could use that to also move the ink color a bit, and then it would sparkle as you go. But again, I'm not a great watercolor artist. I kind of just take tips from what I see on YouTube videos and just try to make sure that the colors kind of look realistic. And then I guess I decided to just go ahead and paint some sky and ground into this. One trick I have learned is, I don't know if you even see on the ground there, if you just start at the top and work your way down with watercolors, you'll get some nice gradation, because it'll be dark at the top and then light at the bottom. And it just kind of depends on what you want the look to be like. For your actual image. But I think I decided not to cut this image out because I'm painting off to the side of it. Yeah, I'm just using, I think that is the Stormy Sky, which is actually appropriately named for this because lighthouses are best when it's stormy outside. But yeah, this is the Stormy Sky. And then it didn't really have like a solid yellow that was bright to paint the inside where the light would be, so I just used that spiced marmalade, and it seemed to work out just fine. I also grabbed some of the spiced marmalade to paint the top there of the sky. This will also be really, really fun to do if you could stamp the lighthouse, maybe like in black or white, embossing, cover it, you could stamp it and then cover it in white or black embossing powder, and then like an emboss resist. That could be actually really pretty. But there, it took a while, but it's all done. So I switched gears. I'm not going to paint you through the next lighthouse. I did grab my stencil by Art Anthology. They have this wonderful 6x9 Dottie circle stencil. And I grabbed my Nuvo Embellishment Mousse. This is in pure platinum. I actually only own two, this and a silver color, but I love them, and it's so much product in one little tub. And I grabbed my palette knives. I got a set of, I think, 3 palette knives at Michael's. I didn't have any, and I like, they're not metal, they're plastic, but they are reusable. So I wanted to see how the mat worked with this medium. So I just put some of that embellishment mousse just down on the silicone mat. And I grabbed my biggest palette knife and I just kind of went at it, honestly. I didn't even tape my stencil down like I usually do. And I just did it on the glass and it didn't even really move. And then there, Like, it's just done. And I was able to wipe that off pretty easily. I did try wiping a stencil on the glass, but I just kind of pushed it in, so it didn't really work. Lastly, I went back and grabbed that stamp set that I showed before, the Shells to Stamp by the Stamps Alive. And I did stamp them, but the video was already running long, so I did not show that part. But I did stamp them using the Tim Holtz Stamp Positioner again. And now I'm just watercoloring them. I decided to use some of the Distress Oxide inks to watercolor them. And I'm really loving the watercolor with the Distress Oxides because the colors are really vibrant. But again, I use that glass surface and I just smushed the Distress Oxides straight onto the surface. You can see them to the right there. And I do love that you can kind of mix them on that same surface, make different colors, and the colors aren't just running off the paper though. That's the thing about this surface is I notice the colors don't the colors don't invade your space. So there where I'm working, it doesn't feel like the colors are going to run off onto that surface. They're staying in their own little pools there to the right. Oh, sorry, my head's kind of in the way there. But that is just the best thing because I think Tim Holtz might have said it in a video before, you always end up working in your own mess. And that is so true for me. And this, I think this might be like a solution to that problem, which is amazing. Sorry for the light changing there. I was trying to see if I could make it less bright, but I really needed the light. But you can see my kind of mess of colors over there, but I loved it. Like the red and yellow, I was able to kind of mix together and make a nice little orange. Because I was imagining kind of a peachy orange for one of the shells. Yeah, and then I'm just wiping that off. I did go back with my Nuvo Aqua Shimmer pen. This thing is amazing. It's just glitter gloss. It came in a pack of 2 and they're big. I've also used Wink of Stella. This is just the newest thing that I'm using. Picked one up at, again, the Scrapbook Expo I recently went to. And I love these. I love these pens. The color it puts down, it is so shiny. It is so shimmery. I mean, you just squeeze the barrel, and they hold so well in your hand, just kind of like a pin. I also wanted to grab the images I had previously stamped. I had colored them in, but I haven't used the images, and I felt like, I don't know if the color kind of rubbed off or it just faded a bit, but I went back over and I really laid the color on. Really laid it on. And you might even see me kind of wiping the pen off in between. That's because the pen picked up some of the ink color below. So I just wanted to make sure I didn't cross colors on anything, like the pinks with the pale areas or the oranges. But yeah, I love this pen. And I'm going to try to show you here just how sparkly that is. I mean, you want some sparkle? That is just awesome. And then that's the pin there. Yeah, my new favorite. You can see the brush tip. It's an awesome brush tip, and you just squeeze the glitter into the barrel. It does kind of come off when it's still wet. And my hands are all dirty from all that inking. And now I'm just going to try to put everything out. So you'll just see this is everything that I made. Yeah, and that's it. All my little mini projects. So all in all, I'd say so far, I'm loving the mat. I'm going to put all the products I use below. And if you have any questions, please put them below. And thank you so much for watching this video. Have a great day.